Hey guys, how's it going? Hope everybody is doing well out there today. One of the issues that I have as a YouTube creator, and besides YouTube and being a creator, is support on the videos that I make. A lot of times I will make a video and people will have questions about, well, how do I do this? How do I do that? And they will want to, post their Docker Compose in the comment section, and then YouTube will flag that. And it just turns into a mess trying to answer questions. And recently, I think I found a solution that I hope you're going to like. What I found is actually what we're going to see right here. It's called Answer. Right here is the website. It's called answer.dev. And what I love about this specifically, especially for our community, is that we can host this in Docker. But before we get to that, a quick message from today's video sponsor. This video is sponsored by Linode. I've been partnered with Linode for quite a while now because it's a great place to host just about anything you could want to host. Need a dedicated space to host an app? Linode has you covered with more than 100 pre-built apps that can be installed with just a couple of clicks. Want to develop an app on your favorite flavor of Linux? Linode has you covered there too, with more than 30 different options to start with. Need to do some pen testing on your own network or app? Install a Kali Linux setup in just a few clicks to get started with testing your own security. You can also host a Docker setup, a Kubernetes cluster, and more with just a few clicks. From hosting a single website to complex multi-cloud deployments, find enterprise-level capabilities like object storage, Kubernetes, and GPUs at a 30 to 50% lower cost than the major cloud providers. Be sure to check out the link in the video description to get $100 in free credit for 60 days to see what you can do with Linode. So taking a look again at the answer.dev website, right here it says build a Q&A community with Answer, an open source knowledge-based community software that you can use it quickly to build a Q&A community for your products, customers, teams, and more. Of course, there's a get started button here, and their GitHub link with 5.6 thousand stars. So obviously it's doing very well. A lot of people are interested in this. And again, I hope you guys are as well. Of course, I'll be using this. In fact, I've got an instance deployed already that we'll take a look at, but I plan on using this to help the community answer questions in the community, just because it'll be easier to search for already asked questions, find answers that work versus answers that don't, because I'm only one guy that runs this channel, and sometimes answering all of the questions can be a nightmare. And I think if we can get kind of a community Q&A going that we can help build the community this year, I'd love to do that. I'd love to see you guys as part of that community over on the website. We're going to take a look at here in just a few minutes. But if we take a look here, we can see all of the different questions that they've got in their little sample here, as far as questions, comments, tags, upvotes, downvotes, things like that. All of this is available as it currently stands. This is still an early development, which is another reason I wanted to bring it to your attention. I love finding these early development projects that we can kind of get in on and share our community hive-brained, if you will. Hive-brain, not brained. I don't have one today, apparently. So this way we can kind of jump in and offer suggestions, comments, thoughts, ideas, whatever you can possibly think of to help these guys with their process over on GitHub. And of course, we can click the GitHub right here, or we can come over to right here, just github.com/answerdev/answer. And of course, like they said, everything's open source. You can see all of the different things that are in here, more of an about section, a link over to their website, some tags. The licensing, again, the stars, the watchers, the forks. It looks like there have been several forks on this, so that's kind of cool too. We've got 25 contributors, so maybe thank them by giving them a star if you appreciate the project here. Of course, if we scroll down, we can get more information about the system and how it works, how easy it is to deploy. I've got a Docker Compose that we'll take a look at. In fact, it's right up here as well. We will take a look at that, but it's just a few lines. It's dead simple to deploy, and I love that about this as well. And that's basically all there is here at the time of filming this. There may be more later on, but I kind of wanted to give you a rundown on this. I will also mention, you can see that they've been actively working on this recently, 2 weeks ago, last week, last month, a couple months. So they've been actively working on this for a while. But the other thing I wanted to show is over here on hub.docker.com/r/answerdev/answer. Same basic URL pattern as over there on GitHub. But here we can see updated 15 hours ago for its newest release. And if we take a look at the tags here, the latest was pushed 15 hours ago, and we have support for desktop and ARM64 processors. So not fully compatible with everything out there, but I think they've done a great job of hitting the right market share with the available processors here. I think that's absolutely great. But if you're ever curious about how to figure out if a specific container is available for your CPU's architecture, you can come over to here. And if it says AMD 64, that's going to be Intel and AMD. I don't know why it's just AMD 64. Maybe you guys can let me know in the comments down below. And of course, ARM 64 will just be any ARM 64 or ARM 64 based processor like the newer Raspberry Pi 4s and other similar style SBCs that are out there. So that's kind of the quick overview just as far as the project itself. So now let's actually take a look at my instance. It's very bare at this point. Like I just launched it a few days ago. I've got a couple people who have signed up, but no real questions other than when I posted. So let's go over to qa.dbtech.com, like we can see up here in the URL bar. And of course, we can see DB Tech help, questions, tags, users. We've got a search here. We can add a question. If you've got any notifications, you can see those up here. And I think that's notifications and that's notifications. I don't know why they've got two notifications there. That's kind of weird. I don't get that, but that's fine. If we come back over to the help page, or the home page rather, we've got all questions that would be listed out here. Again, I've just got the one. You can sort by newest, active, frequent, score, or unanswered. I love that there's an unanswered option up here as well, so that if you want to contribute to the community, you can just go look for questions that aren't answered and do your best to answer them. If you can't, of course, don't. So I've just got this one question in here. If I open this up, welcome to our community-driven help website, when it was asked, when it was modified, when it was viewed, and you can follow questions. If you'd like to be notified for updates and things like that, you can absolutely do that with this as well. Of course, just a little snippet about, hey, don't be a, hopefully this doesn't get demonetized because of that, but don't be a jerk in here. Let's just be a good community, whether it's in this URL or if you host your own. Just try to be a decent human being. I think that's something we should all strive for in the new year, is just being a decent human being. But below that, we've got upvote, downvote. It doesn't. Apparently that is saving for later, maybe. We can share it, flag it, edit it, close it, or delete it, of course. Some of those will vary depending on, are you the original author? Are you a moderator? Are you an admin? You'll see different things down below here depending on those kinds of things. You can add a comment to this, which I love being able to do that. Of course, I've already answered this question, so you won't be able to add, well, I guess you can. I can add another answer. I'm curious, though, if I logged into somebody else, I'd be able to add another answer. But anyway, you can see the person who asked it. You can see their profile picture, their username, their rank, and when it was asked. If you click that, you can go over to their profile. Of course, I've got my picture and my handle, my reputation, answers questions. This is interesting. It just shows the initial website, not the trailing /dbtechyt. I think that's kind of interesting. Of course, overview about me. I'm the guy behind the DB Tech brand. Top questions and answers are over here as well. Answers, questions, bookmarks. That's what that little, that's a bookmark. Duh. Reputation, of course. You get reputation points. In fact, there's actually something I should mention about that. If we come down here, integrations to plugins to your favorite services and that sort of thing, gamification, those are both coming to the service eventually. It's something that they're working on, and you can see that it does say coming soon. And I should have mentioned that earlier, but reputation and things like that are already built in. So if you answer questions or somebody upvotes your answer, your question, your whatever, you get points, and it kind of helps build your reputation on the site of being a subject matter expert. That's a term I haven't used in a long time, but you can become a subject matter expert based on your reputation on this service. Of course, we've got comments that you can leave, and then votes. So if you voted on something, it should show anything you voted on in this tab. We can see when I joined and when I was last seen. Of course, you can edit your profile. You got your profile information here that you can kind of fill in all of that. Next, we've got notifications. Do you want to get notifications to questions, comments, answers, those sorts of things? Your account, you can put in your email address, change your password, your interface, what language do you want to use? They've got several different options there, and I appreciate that. Now let's actually take a look at a couple of different things that I think you might find helpful. What I want to do is come up to my icon up at the top right and click on admin. Once we're here, we've got some different things that we can see. Of course, the site statistic, how many questions, how many active users, answers, votes, flags, all of that is there. System information, how much storage is being used. Not much. We can see the health status, the version we're on, HTTPS, SMTP enabled, yes or no. If you want to get notifications for if you've asked a question or if somebody else asks a question, if you want notifications enabled, you will need an SMTP server, whether that's using a Gmail account or a SendMail account or whatever the case is. You will need an SMTP server, and of course we've got a time zone here, answer links for documents and feedback. Contents over here, we've got questions and answers. Of course, if we look at questions, we can look at normal, closed, deleted. We can get information about what is currently on the site. We can, if we wanted to, close it or delete a comment, a question, whatever. I'm going to click delete, and if I come back over here, now we've got 2 questions in deleted. Over here, we've got users. I'm going to blur their email addresses, but here's where we've got users, their username, their reputation, their email, their created time, their status, their role. And of course, under actions, we can set a new password, change their status, or change their role. If I were to, let's come over here and change the role. You can do user, admin, or moderator. Be careful with those. Don't give the wrong people admin access, because then they can come in and destroy your instance. Pretty common thought process there, but I just want it to be said out loud. So I'm not going to change anything there, but you absolutely can. Anything that's been flagged, you can see here. Customization for themes. There's just the one theme. Hopefully they will be adding more themes or theming options later on. Navbar style, colored or light. You can just come over here and say, I want that color, and then click save. And then it's that color just that quickly. I love that. You can also come in here and add some custom CSS. You can inject scripts into the header, or footer, depending on where you need your script to be. You can absolutely do that here. This will be before the closing head tag. This will be inserted right after the body tag. And this one will be inserted right before the closing HTML tag. Again, different types of tracking scripts or analytics scripts or things like that need to be placed in different places. Here you can do that. If we go to settings, we've got general. Of course, you can do all of that here as far as site name, site URL. Short, and this is, like I said earlier, you can change the site URL right there. You can put in site descriptions and site descriptions, short description, long description, and contact email. Interface, the default language, the time zone, branding. You can do logos, mobile logos, square icons, fave icons. You can upload all of those here. SMTP, I'm super glad that that's not a thing, that it doesn't show my SMTP password there, but there's what you would do to get your SMTP stuff set up. Just fill in the blanks and you're good to go. It just took me a couple of minutes. For legal stuff, terms of service, privacy policy, recommended tags. Here's the thing, right? You can put in recommended tags here, but the tags have to have already been created, which I find confusing. I'd like to just be able to set all of my tags here and have those be the ones that users can select from by default. But that's not the case. You can also have reserved tags that they can only be added by moderators or administrators. I kind of dig that as well. So if you wanted to have certain things that not just any Joe Blow could use, you can put those reserved tags in there. For your SEO, you've got basically your robot.txt file that you can manually change here. And of course, the permalink, you can change how do you want your permalinks to be configured. I dig that. Not a lot of services like this have that available, and I dig that they do. So well done on them for that. And of course, once you've made any changes, you want to click save. And then log in. Do you want to allow memberships? Yes or no? And then private, do you want this to be private so that somebody has to log in to see questions and answers? If you say yes, then people can't see anything until they've logged in. I think for a community like what I'm trying to establish with this, I think not making this private, making it so that logins aren't required, so that anybody can come see a question and an answer, but they have to be logged in to post a question or answer is how I'm going to keep this set up. But that's it. Like that's how easy it is to currently administer this. I'm looking forward to seeing the additional functions and features that they're adding to this with, like the gamification and the integrations and things like that they're going to do. I can't wait to see that. So again, if we come over to questions here, we can say, ask a question. How does this work? And then you could say, really easily, right? Like just very basically here. Now, here's what I dig about this over trying to use YouTube comments. Again, for my specific use case anyway, is that, if I come over here, let's just jump into this real quick. and go over to the editor. That's the entire Docker Compose. Version 3, service, answer, image, answer dev / answer, ports, 9080, 80, restart on failure, volumes, and that's it. Like, that's how quick and easy this is to deploy. But, if we come over and we just paste this in, and we come down here and we look, that looks like absolute trash. And unfortunately, that's how it is when somebody tries to comment their Docker Compose in YouTube. I can't tell if maybe their formatting was off. It's just there's so many different things that could affect. So what we can actually do to fix this, so up here we can see this looks fine, right? Like, it looks like it should, but down here it doesn't. And like I said, this is what it comes through as over on YouTube. So I can't tell if there's a formatting issue or a spacing issue or whatever. So what we can do to fix this, which I dig, we can just come up, let's just add another line there, like so, and then we can come down to the bottom, like so. And just that quickly and easily, now we've got a code block, and you can see right over here, it's got all kinds of different markdown options there if you wanted to do that. And I love how easy it is to use. They've got what we call a WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get editor up here as well for headings and bold and italic and code blocks, or code samples, hyperlinks, block quotes, images if you need to use an image for something, tables, formulas, charts. So you can do like flow charts, sequence diagrams. So like if you want to say, I do this and then this happens and this happens, you can use sequence diagrams. You've got state diagrams, class diagrams, pie charts, Gantt charts, entity relationship diagrams, like just all kinds of really cool functionality built into this. And we're still in early development on this project, which I love seeing something this robust so early on, knowing that there's more coming. And that's honestly why I wanted to share it with you. Again, like I mentioned in a previous video, when I see these early development applications, these Docker containers that are so well thought out, I just absolutely love to see it. And I love sharing them with you guys. So hopefully, again, you guys find this helpful for your own needs. Of course, we've also got, numbered list, ordered list, unordered list, indents, outdents, horizontal rules, and help. If you're not sure, you can come over here, and there are even more things about Markdown tutorials right up here at the top, a 10-minute tutorial. I should probably do that. I am trash with Markdown. I always have been. I've always been like an HTML coder, and Markdown it's a new language, right? So I really should go through that and learn Markdown more effectively so that it's more second nature to me than it currently is. But yeah, that's kind of what's going on there. And of course, you can add tags. You can search tags. So you can do like Docker. Let's add Portainer to that as well. You can add additional tags. You can create new tags. You can post your question, cancel. You can answer your own question if you figured it out later. You could do that if you wanted. And then once you're done, you just click on post your question. And there it is. We've just posted a question. If we come back to the homepage, now we've got how does this work? And again, asked 4 seconds ago, it's been viewed one time. And it's a very intuitive platform. And I really dig that about this Answer Docker container and the community that they're trying to build as well. And it really is. It's super, super simple to deploy. So let's go ahead. We're going to come back over to Portainer. You could deploy this via Portainer and just come over. Like you go to your homepage here, open this up, go over here to stacks, create a new stack. Yep, right there, and just paste that in, and then call it answers or whatever. Come down, click on deploy. I'm just going to go back to the stack I already had. Say yes there. I'm going to answer. I don't have anything running. I've already deleted the volume that goes with it. But basically, like I said, version 3, services answer. The image is answer dev / answer. You could put on the latest tag if you wanted to, or you could come back and find other tags to use if you needed to use a specific version for a specific reason. You could add those by simply just doing colon and then latest. Or, oops, let me get that out of there like that. Or main, or, I think it was 1.01 or something. Whatever the case is, you can add tags to it just very simply doing it that way. Of course, you can change the port. Originally, this was 8080 like so, but we don't ever change the port on the right side of the colon. We only change the port on the left like that. Restart on failure. I dig that. Just if it fails, it'll try to restart. Just as simple as that. Reboots count as failures as well. So I dig that as well. So just anytime there's a reboot, something happens, whatever, container crashes, it'll automatically try to come back up. Our volume, we've got answer data. You could map this if you wanted to. I don't know why you'd need to in this particular instance, but you could, let's say you wanted to do like, home / Docker / containers / answer. And if you did something like that, you wouldn't need this. However, I think, again, for the sake of keeping things simple, that using a Docker volume for this rather than a mapped volume for this is perfectly acceptable. Once you've got all of this, you're happy with all of this, you've got your port figured out that you want to use, you can just scroll down and click on deploy the container. Mine says update. Again, I've already deployed it once, and that's why we're seeing it. But we can click the blue deploy button, give it a minute to download the resources, deploy the container. We just kind of hang out and wait for it to finish up. And then once it's done, we'll come back and take a further look.
A few moments later.
So really, just very quickly, it came back up. Again, I already had the image downloaded, so it went a little faster for me on this deployment than it would have for you on your first deployment, but you get the idea. We can come over here and take a look at the logs. And it went through and it installed all kinds of different things for languages. I dig that it's got multiple languages in it. So that's what's going on there. It was installing all of the different languages it has available, and it installed all of the environmental done. Cool. And the answer installation service will run at localhost on port 80/install. So let's pop this open. And then it threw a 500 error, which is perfectly acceptable because I didn't go to the right URL. It was /install, like so. So we're going to choose a language. I'm going to choose English. I'm going to click next. And then you've got a couple of options, right? You could deploy this using a MySQL database. So if you've got a large community, you could do that. If you know you're going to have a large community, I would absolutely do that. Or you can come down and do like a SQLlite or a Postgres SQL database. So if you wanted to just do a SQL database, this is what it would look like. And you could just decide where do you want it to be stored right there in data/answers.db. And that's where your SQLlite database would be stored. So using a SQLite database isn't always the right answer. Again, if you're going to have a larger database, lots of data, lots of users, that sort of thing, a SQLite database isn't necessarily a great option. So let's take a look at what it would look like to get a MariaDB or a MySQL. They're kind of interchangeable here. Let's take a look at what it would take to get a MySQL/Maria database set up here. So what we're going to do is come over like this, and right there, we would put in our username, our password, our database host, and the database name. Now, in order to do that, of course, we'll need a MySQL database or a Maria database, again, in my case, because that's what I'm using here, or what I would be using. Let me show you that. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back to Portainer. We're going to create a new stack in this case. And of course, this is all the same, all this up here at the top. What I've done, though, is I've added this database container right here. The service would just be called DB. That would also be our host name. Our image would be a MariaDB 10. The command is just kind of something that I found that works to keep everything functioning properly when dealing with databases. We've got an environment variables of the MySQL root password is answer, user answer, MySQL password, and database all answer. Of course, change those accordingly so that they're not just answer. That's a really bad practice. But for the sake of demonstration, I want to go ahead and do that. So, of course, below that, we've got our volume. Again, we're using a Docker volume for this. We don't necessarily need to have a mapped volume for the database. If you don't want to, you can do it this way. Of course, we've got that mapped to var lib MySQL, restart on failure, and of course, we've declared our databases down here at the bottom as well. So all we would have to do in that case, well, first, I need to change that because I've already got 9080. So let's just change that so we've got it somewhere else. Let's scroll down and click on deploy. And of course, this will deploy not only answer, but a Maria database that we can connect to as well. So let's give this a minute to do its thing, and then we'll take a look at getting a Maria database installed as well.
A few moments later.
Okay, so here we are just a couple of minutes later, and here we can see that we've got AnswerDB answer 1. Of course, that's our answer container, our application there. And of course, below that, we've got our answer database. If we take a look at our logs for the application, it looks like all of our stuff there is done. We're good to go there. Let's take a look at our database real quick. Initializing database files. We'll give this another minute to do its thing, and then we'll come back and actually go through the installation process for both the SQLite installation as well as the Maria database installation. Okay, so while the Maria database is kind of doing its thing, let's actually take a look at the SQLite database installation version of this setup process. So what we're going to do is come back over to the instance we had up already using the SQLite instance. Again, this is on port 9080. Remember, we've got the 9088 for the Maria database version. All of this is fine. We don't need to change anything here. We're just going to click Next. Created the config.yaml file. That's all been created, so we can click Next. So now we're just going to give it a site name. We're going to call this SQLite version, just so we've got something to visibly see kind of what's going on here. Not that it's going to change anything, just know that that's why I'm doing it. So I'm going to do email at email.com. Right, so we fill out all our information here and we click next. And there, after just a couple of seconds, I'm impatient. I clicked that next button a few times. I don't think you have to. I'm just impatient. Here we go. So it says your answer is ready. If you ever feel like changing more settings, you can go to the admin section and you can find it in the site menu. Click done. Then we can log in with our email address. And there we go. Now we're logged in just that quickly and easily. And again, this is the SQLite version, like we can see right there that I put in the title, just so we could kind of compare and contrast the two. Not because there's any difference, but just so we can make sure that we're looking at the right things when we're looking at different things here. So let's go ahead and close or go back over here to Portainer. And let's go over and take a look at the installation process using the Maria database instead of the SQLite database. So again, I'm going to click on the ports right here. It's going to throw that 500 error because I need to go to install. Again, I'm going to select my language. I'm going to click next. All of this for me was answer, right? The Maria database, MySQL, that's fine. Username is answer. Password is answer. The database host is, just like it says here, DB and then 3306. Now the DB was the host name that we talked about earlier. If we take a look at the Docker Compose here, right here, this DB right there is what it's asking for, the host name of this container, in this case, DB. And then for Maria databases and MySQL databases, the default port on those is 3306. So all of this in this database host part is correct. Database name is answer, so let's click next. Great, it configured or created the config.yaml file. We'll click next. Again, we're going to call this MariaDB version, just so that, again, we can have the compare and contrast there. The port looks fine, or the URL there looks fine. Of course, if you were going to put this on a public URL, like you probably would if you were going to have this be a public service, you put in this site URL there, not just the local IP address and port. Just so that we're clear on that, you would want to put in the actual URL. You can change it later if you need to, but there you go. That's where you put in the site URL, or in my case, the IP address and port. Contact email address, again, email at email.com. Email.com. I'm just going to be super generic with all this. Right, so we've got all of that put in there. I'm going to click next. Interesting. Okay, so we've got an issue there. So, all right, so this is interesting. What I'm seeing here is that a couple of things, really. Okay, now it says that it's ready for connection. So let's try that again. What I am seeing here, though, is I'd like to see a back button. Hopefully the developers will see this. I'd like to see a back button so that I can go back and correct my database information if I need to do that. I think that would be super valuable here. Sometimes people make mistakes, they fat finger things, whatever the case is. I'd like to see a back button here to go back to a previous step. All right, so that time it worked. We'll see if it really did. I'm going to click done. And I'm going to log in. I'm going to see if I can log in anyway. Log in. And it logged me in. So now because I don't know that I trust it just yet, let's actually add a question here. Does this work? And then, oops. Nope. Also, for some reason, if you tab into this area, we're just going to refresh. If you tab in like that, there's no way to really tab out. And to get this to close without doing that, I guess, that's not super helpful. Anyway, so does this work? There we go. Like so. I'm going to add a tag. Docker. Oh, right. Because I haven't created any tags in this one. I'm not going to do any tags. I'm going to post my question, tag not found. You do have to add tags. Interesting. I'd like to see the option for that to get turned off as well. I don't know that everything needs a tag. Because people are going to manage things differently, I'd like to see the ability to turn the necessity for tags off. So just something there. Just general, and then general. You can add a description if you want. Again, I'm not going to, but you can. I'm going to post my question. And it seems to have worked, so maybe I was just being impatient with the database setup. Again, though, I'd like to see a back button on that install screen to go back and correct any mistakes without having to start all the way over. Hopefully that's something the developers can fix or add. I don't want to say fix, I want to say add as a feature there. But that's kind of generally how you would run this. Because this doesn't run on an SSL, like a built-in SSL, deploying this, whether it's Nginx Proxy Manager, Cloudflare Channels, traffic, whatever, is going to be super, super easy because you're just going to point an HTTP source to this via whichever reverse proxy you want to use, and deploying it for public consumption via a reverse proxy of your choosing is very, very easy to do. I don't want to get into that though, because people use so many different services out there to make these publicly available. It's too much to cover and to say, well, here's how to do it in Traffic and Caddy and Nginx Proxy Manager and Tunnels and Swag and there's just too many of them out there to show how to do this with all of those different options. So I'm going to let you use your smart brain and figure out how to deploy this using a reverse proxy of your own choosing. But that's the general gist of how to get Answer deployed using Portainer. Of course, you could SSH into your server and deploy that using a command. Just a quick run through on that, right? We would do SSH root at, and then we could do make directory Answer cd into Answer, and then nano docker compose.yml. And then, of course, we could come back over to our Portainer instance or wherever you keep your stuff. Oops. Paste that in there, and then do Control O and Enter and Control X to save and exit, and then just a simple docker compose up-d. Now, here's the thing, right? Depending on how your service is set up, it might be docker dash compose, like I've shown here, like this, or it might be docker space compose. So if you try one and it doesn't work, try the other, and then either one of those two options should work to bring up your docker compose. Again, depending on which instance of docker compose, what version of docker compose you're using. And then, of course, the detach, this dash D, is just to run it so that it's not dependent on this terminal window being open. If you didn't have the dash D, if you just had it like that, and then you closed the terminal window, the containers would also shut down. And of course, that doesn't do us any good. We don't want to have that terminal window open all the time. So there you go. There's how to deploy Answer. We took a look at how to do it with a SQLite database as well as a MariaDB using Portainer as a graphical user interface way to deploy this. And of course, you can use either of those same Docker Compose, which will be linked in the description down below. You can use either of those to deploy this via the terminal, like I've shown here, by just creating a Docker Compose with that in there and doing a Docker Compose up or dash D, of course, if you want to run it detached. That's Answer kind of in a big giant nutshell, going through, installing it via Portainer as well as command line, doing it via a SQLite database or a MariaDB. We've kind of covered a bunch of different things here, and that's why this video is a little longer. I apologize for that, but I know that not everybody wants to do things in Portainer, and not everybody wants to do things in command line, so I thought we'll try to do both in a single video and extend the video a little longer. But that's it. That's what I wanted to show in this video. Again, hopefully you found the video helpful. If you did, do me a favor, give the video a thumbs up. If you've got questions or comments, if you liked the video, you like what's going on here, you can leave that down below. If you've got questions about deploying this or specific technical things about this, definitely head over to qa.dbtech.com, where you can actually ask a more in-depth question without YouTube possibly suppressing your questions. So I think with all that said, I'm going to wrap this up. Again, links to everything will be in the description down below. Thank you for spending a few minutes of your day with me. I do appreciate your time, and I will talk to you in the next video.